all the backstage stuff that happens when the music is such a room changer and a mood lifter. Let me let me ask this. Are you fearful of being discovered as a fraud? Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
Sometimes.
Do you feel guilt or shame about your accomplishments? Raise your hand. Okay. Does the word imposter syndrome resonate with you? Raise your hand. Raise your finger. Yeah. So today we are in the not quite the Ides of March. We are talking about imposter. This, and as we were getting ready for the show, one of the things that I had to do was Google it. I think I just heard those two words, imposter syndrome, put together maybe about 5-6 years ago. Didn't know it was even a thing. But there are many people that do have the person in the room who raised their finger that, have this fear of being discovered as a fraud. And so, of course, naturally, EJ, I'm going to throw it over to you. Why did you raise your finger? And love the earrings, by the way. Why did you raise your finger?
So first off, hi ladies. I think, I've taught about it, I've coached about it, I've lived it. And I wrestle with it. And it's a reality. It's a reality that is either I'm looking at or I'm looking at through the eyes of others every single day. Where it is this question, it goes back to the whole notion of worthy and worth. And am I enough? And that ongoing battle of, when you come from, especially, I'll give first generation, lots of firsts. And so there is always the desire and the need to be and to do more and to be ahead. So you're always, always, always trying to reach for the next. And so there's never a place of saying, oh, I'm satisfied with where I am. And therefore, if you're always, always seeking for that next grade, the next big achievement, you're never, satisfied with where you are, which means that where you are can't be enough because there's always the need to go to something further, right? Didn't say, and so I get it. I told you, I coach on it, I teach on it, but it is a lived experience where if I'm always looking for what is that next hurdle, if I'm going for the next hurdle, by default, that means that where I am isn't where I'm supposed to be. So it's not enough. So who's going to discover that? Oh, as I'm getting ready for that next, perhaps I shouldn't even be where I am in the today.
That's a lot. That is a lot. And it's interesting that you're able to articulate and decipher that. In my day job, where I'm talking to potential candidates all day, I can't tell you the number of mostly women who will say, "Are you sure I'm right for this job? This job is not too big for me." And I tell every last one of them, "Shut your mouth." Shut your mouth. Actually, if you're just able to step into a job and be able to do everything day one, that's the wrong job for you. You just moved over into complacency. Every job should have some sort of learning curve. And up until yesterday, we'll talk about it later, Google something. Kennedy. I'll talk about the Googles later. Kennedy, so yeah, this notion of imposter syndrome. And where do you stand? What does it mean to you?
It frustrates me. It frustrates me to hear it coming from women that I think are amazing and powerful. And I see the value in them, what they bring to the table, what their strengths are, and how this world needs them to show up in their power. And so when I hear, I'm empathetic to it because it's not something that I actually struggled with in life. I think everyone's experiences create, right? And being a person who lived through something that could have been fatal at a very young age, every breath to me is a gift. And so I'm a gift just to be here. What I do with that time and this energy and my effort is a contribution to the world around me. It's a contribution to myself. It's a contribution to my family. And I look at it as such. And so the way that I value my accomplishments are just different. And it never has left me feeling like, yes, I still strive. My expectations on myself are much higher than anyone else could ever put on me. And so I'm never holding myself to someone else's standards. So why do I care what you think about if I'm worthy? I'm not using your measurement as my barometer. I'm using my
Right.
and I struggle with really understanding how to break people free from this imposter syndrome. And God, I want to do it because I feel like the women who struggle with it most are the ones who are most magnificent and they don't even see it.
Yeah.
And I love that you're saying that. And I also, as you're talking, I'm hearing the societal norms that are put on people from childhood,
Mhm.
right? For either from mothers, and let's focus on women, from mothers, from girls, from what have you, right? That you are a mother, you're holding it all together. You're a superwoman. You're a superwoman. You got your career, you've got your kids, you what have you. Okay, now you have that title, that what have you. Well, am I really a superwoman? I feel like I'm falling apart. People are looking at me as this thing, and they've put this title on me, right? But am I living up to that title that people are even seeing me as? And so I discount it. So I'm not ready for you yet. And so like there's that one. And then you think about other type, like you call someone, you're the expert,
Mm.
right? So you're the expert. And so if I'm the expert, what keeps me in that expert place? I'm always striving to, well, you've declared I'm an expert, but who's really to say that I'm an expert, right? And if you go to the court of social media, chapter 2, verse 10, um, used to call someone an expert, how many different ways, shapes, and phrases can be used to tear that person down and take that away from them? So again, it's all in the court of public opinion, and that's the world we live in.
That's why I'm not on social media. Go ahead, Kennedy.
I don't live in that world. I'm just gonna say it. I don't live in the world of the public opinion because I don't care what the public thinks or what the public says. I know what God says about who I am and how I was created. I know what I think about myself. I know my strengths and my values, and I know what I bring to the table. And if the table ain't right, I know how to make one for it to be right. And so I cannot question my expertise simply because some stranger told me that they disagree. I can defend my expertise because I know that I'm the expert, right? And my experiences and the things that I've done make me the expert. So I don't need a person to come and tell me that there's anything different about that. And so I understand what you're saying. And I feel like this could be like a whole week series where we break down
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
situations, right? But there was something that you said that I thought was profound. And it was about these childhood stereotypes and norms and the superwoman um, thing. And I think every single woman that was born with a set of ovaries and or uterus, um, is a superwoman in some. And I think it's so important to find the win, right? Search for the thing where you are a superwoman and believe it wholeheartedly and do more of it so you can prove to yourself every single day that you wear that cape. And being a superwoman and having moments where you need to restore and replenish and you've been knocked down and you have to get back up are not mutually exclusive. And
Well,
so we
okay.
need to realize that.
So it's interesting. We talk about who typically has imposter syndrome. It typically are, it's the high functioning, high performing, high achieving individuals. And there's like 5 different kind of categories of this imposter syndrome. There's the perfectionist. So I think EJ, you were talking about this, that yeah. There's the expert, right? That who's going to someone that might challenge my expertise. And I don't care who you are. No one is all knowing on all things. Not on this planet, not on this planet. And then there's the soloist, the one who can't take help from others if they want to be successful, because then that begins to negate their expertise status. The natural genius who defines their worth as the smart one. And then the superwoman, the one that we've been talking about, that most women or most girls, when they're born, and they clip the umbilical cord, they slap on that invisible cape. And so we think we need to be all things all the time to everyone and every second of every day. And anything below that is a fail. And so for me, I think about in my journey, I've always, I don't know. I don't believe it's, because some might say that is this maybe a narcissistic type of a situation where I don't identify. I do think I'm a superwoman. I don't think I'm a natural genius, but I can hold a conversation on most topics in an elevator ride. Sometimes the elevator ride is 2 floors. But for me, it's been, I had the blessing of my grandfather and what he exposed me to. I had the blessing of my father who helped that, I got my travel gene from. And I am a lifelong learner and not afraid to be like, oops, I absolutely blew that. That became over time. That became, once I kind of got into that 40, and then since getting over that 50 hump, it's kind of, my oopsies are daily. And I celebrate them daily. And there's often times where, how many lessons you need to learn. For me, it's usually once where I need to learn that particular lesson so that I don't repeat it. But I love that stretch within me and have forgotten or put aside this perfectionist. I used to be that. I used to be this. I still am kind of the soloist where I'm not asking for help, not because of imposter syndrome. It's more so of an inconvenience to others. And by the time I ask and get them to get it, explain it, I could have done it. Or, if it's impacting my brand. But imposter syndrome just doesn't live here. And I find it interesting where it lives and where it doesn't live. Thoughts on that?
I would probably go 2 places with it. Something that you said around it, it's something that you practiced, that you learned, right? Because of how you were raised, because of what you were exposed to, right? That taught you how to engage and act in a particular way.
Yeah.
And that is so, I think that goes back to the point of this is a muscle for many. If
Yeah.
that's not what your root is, if that's not how you were born, right? Then it's a muscle that has to be exercised. But you have to know to exercise that muscle in order, in order to go there. And guess what? We get lazy and the muscles atrophy and then they start hurting or you forget that they're there. And then you get that little kick remembrance. It's like, oh, okay, I got to do that again. I got to do some more. And I think that's the importance of even bringing this back to the surface and having the conversation. It's not to live in it. It's not to, but it's really, okay, so now what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you went there with the learned behavior and the muscle memory, because I do think that that's definitely part of it. I give credit to the fact that I had amazing parents, and you guys have heard me say this before, but my parents were really before their time. They were doing things that most parents of color were not doing with their children. They were teaching us to have a voice in our house. They were teaching us to really appreciate and celebrate the small things and not wait until we've accomplished the grandiose thing to think that we've actually moved the needle, right? They were really teaching us that progress is just as important as, as the outcome, the end game. And I struggled with perfectionism as a child, only because it was self-inflicted, and I thought I needed to do that so that I could stay out of the way so my parents could deal with parent stuff, right? And so I struggled with that quite a bit until I gotten early in my career, and I had a wonderful boss who told me that while they appreciated the fact that everything was perfect by the time I got it to them, that my perfection was the enemy of progress. And I needed to be able to deliver faster, and it didn't have to be perfect. We could deal with the things that would come out of it if I just got it there faster. And it was an aha for me, not just for my career, but also in my personal life. And it was the first time I think I got permission from anyone to fail forward and accept the fact that things didn't have to be perfect. And it was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think about some of that we've been talking about is I wonder how much of the imposter voice comes from within versus come from inflicted from others. So meaning the perfection for whom, whom, for you know what I mean? And is it because it's often said like women when you go out, we're not necessarily dressing for guys' attention. We're dressing for the attention of other women. Like, oh, look what she has on. She's really cute, that type of thing. And I wonder how much of that is also from that external insight, that external place. Meaning, my computer is talking to me from an external.
Who was playing PlayStation or Xbox or something over there? Wasn't telling nobody.
I'm watching some cold over here. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, stop. So no, and coming from that competition, whether we are in the event, in the arena or not, and so the perfection, is it internal or is it external? Is the superwoman internal? Is it more from an external perspective? And I had a conversation with a colleague last week where we bumped heads a little bit, and she had asked for, and I was like, hey, we're going to work together again. I was not at my best self. I own that. And so I absolutely own that. And she asked for some feedback and felt awful that, how it all went down. And I said, at the end of the day, there is nothing you can say that is worse than what I will say to myself. My bar for me is higher than anyone else's bar, and it always will be. But my bar has some give in it, and it has a lot more give in it. It's not that 7 foot, was it a high jump anymore? It's my bar is, it's a high. I gotta elevate. We're working some of my calf muscles, but it's still it's achievable in terms of being able to clear it. And when I don't, like I said, daily bumping the head on this bar, forgiveness and grace and owning it loudly.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Gigi, but before you dive in, I got a question for you.
We always ask EJ questions. We always ask EJ questions.
I'm glad you acknowledged that. Thank you. Okay.
Well, you are the one that raised your finger, so I was that.
My finger. I think I was set up though, but anyhow, carry on.
Okay, here's the question. Is imposter syndrome just one of those things that maybe it's not real at all? Maybe it's just one of those things that we use to prevent us from really stepping into the life God has called us to live.
Yes, and right, because we put a name to it, right? Robin, you said, it felt weird to say Robin. Anyhow, that
are you talking
that
about?
you just learned that phrase 5 or 6 years ago. You put a name on it. So you put a name on it, which actually sometimes gives it power, but sometimes takes away power. But you put a name on it. Um, I think, to your question, it is that constant battle and wrestle with um, of am I worthy? And am I worthy not just of, my today, but even in the broader, it's not about work. It's even, am I worthy for the God calling that the Creator has put on me and what I need to do? Am I
Ooh,
really worthy for all that the power and influence and expression that can come
mhm.
from that? Yeah, all of that is tied together
What if the
because
answer is no? What if the answer is you're not worthy, but through his grace and what he can do through you, you are equipped and capable, and that makes you worthy. You
100%.
know
And guess what? That's a muscle.
that.
That is a muscle that has to be exercised on a daily basis. That's all, and that's kind of where I'm
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
Because if it's not, and that's why I appreciate having these types of conversations and people tapping into these conversations, because when you don't and you don't
Ooh,
acknowledge it, right? The end result is many things besides just the you're constantly in this spin in this swirl. You, you can physically make yourself ill,
mm,
Mm.
mhm.
physically ill. And that's mental illness, but also physical illness, ulcers, all kinds of others as a result of this internalization. And
Yeah.
so, and I say that because
It's a toxic.
literally
It's a
I was
toxic.
It's toxic. I
Yeah.
was coaching someone this week, and they were talking to me about how they had to take a step back because all of the doubt and what have you and expectation they were putting on themselves from external forces has worked themselves into illness, and they ended up being hospitalized.
Jeez.
Right.
Well, our girl Olivia just gave us a nice little segue to
Love you, Olivia.
our do something. So how do we take this power out of this toxin, right? And I think we just had the Oscars. I think that ends the award season. We need to fire the actor and the rest of the cast. And what that means, this morning I was watching Christina Applegate, who has MS, and she was talking about she's had this representative, this actor that shows up and looks like Christina Applegate. Meanwhile, while she's trying to handle her internal conversation. And so I around MS and adopting to it. And so for me, the fire your actor, I think the best way to overcome something is to one, acknowledge it, but two, say it out loud. Say it out loud. It's one of these things. When I was running my first and only marathon, I told people about it because then they would hold me accountable to it, right? And so I think firing that actor that is in this case saying you're not worthy. In this case, that is saying there's doubt that you're not good enough. Fire that fool, and then fire the rest of the cast. So anyone else that is around you, 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees of separation, or in the separation of their basement in front of their keyboard in the Googles, fire them. They have no presence, they have no power, they have no impact in what you can own and what you can do.
And I'm gonna
Yeah.
just add to that, because if the rest of the cast happens to be related to you, married to you, someone that you gave birth to, someone you
Yeah.
hate, and you can't necessarily fire them
You
because you
can
can't
fire
fire
them.
the video. You could, but that's a whole different segment.
That's a
Um,
different segment.
I'm saying fire, not in terms of you don't need to get a divorce, you don't need to disown your kid, but let them know that that doesn't live here. That is
right,
not allowed here. Yes.
exactly, and let the voice
I know some
that is
good divorce lawyers if you need any. I'm just
and let the voice that's drowning all of that out be greater
yeah,
than the
100%.
cast.
100%. Well, if you're gonna fire your actor and the rest of the cast, then you should probably rehire you.
Absolutely. And I think one of my favorite quotes, and don't ask me who it's by, and I have a picture that goes with the quote, and it says, "What if you fall? But my dear, what if you fly?"
Woo.
And so that question of how do you recommit to you, right? And you take out yeah, there are all these things that are telling you you can't, these voices that are telling you you can't. But listen to that one for a moment that says, what, you know what? Just by leap of faith, maybe you could. So reclaim it, reinvest in you, rehire you, because if not you, then who? Open up and accept the positivity and the positive feedback and the positive reinforcement. And guess what? You are extraordinary. And if you have to say at this or at that, it doesn't have to be to everything, but you are extraordinary, and walk in it.
Walk in. Where's my theme music? All right. Last, do something.
Listen, y'all, this message is not just for the women who struggle with imposter syndrome or their besties who love them so much that they want to see them break out of that imposter syndrome, but this is also for the parents who are raising these strong, beautiful women, right? We always talk about, may we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. Well, guess what? In raising them, the narrative is so critical to their ability to build that muscle that we've been talking about, right? And so we have to change the narrative to one that is going to be positive, that is going to reinforce their self-esteem and their confidence, that is going to build them up. And it is critical that we do this as parents. The reason I started the Dream Academy, which is my nonprofit working with girls, is because I learned that girls stop dreaming at the age of 7 based on societal norms and what people have told them they can't be. Half of that is coming from within their own homes. So, parents, we have to do our jobs. I ain't gonna tell y'all we need to do better because I don't know what you're doing right now. But I'm going to say we have to do our part to raise these women to believe that they are worthy.
And they don't have to be your birth children for you to raise them and pour into them.
1000%.
Oh, 1,000,000%. I'm the classic auntie. As we bring this show to a close, one of the things that I was looking forward to this particular topic in the month of celebrating women, International Women, and I have loved the journey that women have gone on over the past I would say 5, 6 years in terms of coming together, marching for all sorts of causes, reproductive rights, maternal mortality, voting, and keeping the Supreme Court out of our physicians' offices and so forth. And to me, it just solidifies the sisterhood that we have. I am again unapologetic about what this platform does, and its design is intended to do is really to bring together or bring forth issues that we struggle with or that we observe. And as part of this sisterhood, we need to give voice to things that are holding us back from being our best selves, holding us back from reaching our greatest ambition. And that imposter, little miss syndrome, she's got to go. She has no home. I don't know that song. If I knew how to sing, I would sing it. But for now, I'm going to let my old girl sing it.